Don't forget to follow.
As always, I can never tell if I'm live or not. You know, because YouTube's a pain in the ass. Oh, they changed it. I don't like it.
Don't forget to follow.
Fucking. As always, I can never tell if I'm live or not. You know, and I'm not muted either on my thing. Okay, well, it appears I'm live. Hello, everyone. I do exist. Unlike. I would have said unlike God, but. Anyway, yes, it has been a month. I'm alive though. Hello, worse than you. I live. I so I was gone for I think a month, and I do apologize for that. I had well, first things first, work got crazy. There were like 2 or 3 Saturdays that we just had uh probably about 1,500 people come through the restaurant just to eat and just to get food. So I was understandably very, very exhausted coming home from that. And then I last week was invited on a family fishing trip for the first time. So I jumped at the chance for that, took a week off work, and went after that. And so that is where I was last week. This week, however, I am back. Um, and yeah, this week we are back, and I am alone this week as Ryan, or Caesar, sorry, decided that he didn't have much to say on this one, so he didn't want to join me, and that's fine. That's for him to decide. That is absolutely for him to decide. There we go. And so I am alone. But this week we will be copying EFAP in that we will be returning and that we will be watching a video they have responded to. So, I mean, never said I wasn't shameless. I never said I wasn't a shameless copy. So, this is how Star Wars fans, and I should probably put this up on screen. Be a nice change of pace. One day I'll get a second monitor. One day I will have the money and get a second monitor and just have the stream set up on one side, the video set up on the other, and it will be beautiful, and I won't have to flash OBS on the screen every time I want to. Anyway, this is Dave Lee Down Under, and his How Star Wars Fans Killed Star Wars. And you can tell he's serious because killed, his capital is all in all caps. Oops. Remember, we Star Wars fans killed. I see no reason why not worse than you. Hold on. I'd actually have to create a voice channel for you, wouldn't I? So we could talk. Maybe in the future. I'm fine riding alone tonight. Right, but definitely in the future. Which, by the way, worse than you. Since if you're in the Discord, can you see the Don't Rest Your Head channel? Well, because I posted that like 2 weeks ago, and bupkis. I figured someone would have responded to it by now, but it's been crickets. Not that our Discord is fairly active, but crickets are not what I expected. Anyway, so here's his social media. I do have high expectations of you. I'm not going to tell you don't go contact this person because that would be utterly pointless. Someone somewhere is going to contact them. I will just be very disappointed if you do. Ooh. Leave these people alone. They're not worth your time. Trust me. It should be at the very top. Like it says don't rest your head. I might, if you can't see it, I might have to go in and figure out what the hell I did wrong when I created it. Like above the text channels. At least that's where it is for me on my Discord. So if you can't see it, I'm probably okay. Good. Okay, so here's the other question: can you get into it? Is because I know both myself and Caesar have permissions that would allow us to basically in everything. So if y'all can't get in, that explains why. Hey, nobody's said anything. By the way, if you are watching this and you are not in live chat, I am trying to put together a game of Don't Rest Your Head, it's a really, really interesting game. Basically, the premise is you are nice. All right. You, the characters, are insomniacs. You have not slept for so long that the world itself that you become awake, as the game terms it. And you can now see into the Mad City and enter the Mad City, but it is an area fraught with danger. So, uh, that is the basic premise of the game. You must be on Discord and you must submit a character idea, which I have posted all the screenshots of the pages that involve character creation and what the game is all about onto that don't rest your head tab in our Discord. So you must be in the Discord and you must submit a character to that tab on Discord. So, now that that's out of the way, also, I am now that in other news, I follow a YouTuber on my own channel, on my own private channel, who found out his videos were suppressed because he had roulette in the title. So I am now literally 100% certain that this channel is being suppressed, which means that you, my loving audience, need to like, share, and subscribe to share this video out. Share this video out. Vote if you're feeling generous. Plug us on other people's other YouTube channel streams. I know that seems shady, but YouTube will not allow this channel to be successful. I guarantee it. They are definitely 100% suppressing this channel's growth. So, probably because it has alehouse in the name or filthy stuff like that, or any number of the titles I've picked. So, I do ask that you remember to subscribe, like, and share the video around. Now that our housekeeping is out of the way, let's get to this.
Follow me on social media to keep and my content of the video. Divisive stuff, subscribe below or at the end of the video. Star Wars The Last Jedi has opened to become one of the most polarizing and divisive Star Wars movies ever.
Yeah, because it was bad. Like, uh, it was bad, just generally. And I wouldn't hold Rotten Tomatoes up as like anything involving a genuine audience score. That score is probably about that score is definitely lower. Rotten Tomatoes has just deleted basically all, just doesn't count. I think it was like 1 or 2 star review, half star or something. Like they stopped counting a certain rating for movies that critics liked and everything. He's Australian, of course he does.
While some fans and the majority of critics are singing their praises,
it is a damn good Star Wars movie. This movie made me really happy.
Rian Johnson, you've made a fantastic Star Wars movie, a fantastic movie, and I can't wait to see it again.
We love this movie, right?
First time I saw it,
Yeah.
not so much. I've seen it twice now, and the second time I saw it,
Give it to me.
I loved it the second
Yeah,
time.
good.
I certainly give it a good.
Yeah, I saw the movie twice too, and it didn't make sense either time. I walked out of the first time I saw this movie, I walked out of the theater and thought, "What did I just watch?" I didn't. I felt odd for or a genuine for Star Wars. I walked out of the Force Awakens excited. I was like, later on review, upon review, I started upon review of the Force Awakens, I was like, it's pretty mediocre as Star Wars fare goes. It plays it very, very, very safe for everything it does. But The Last Jedi left me feeling like I did not enjoy The Last Jedi. I did not leave the theater feeling like I'd watched a Star Wars movie. I felt odd. Like there was this niggling in the back of my brain, like, did I just watch a bad movie? And upon the second viewing, because I did see this movie twice, upon the second viewing, I realized this movie's bad, and I couldn't ever articulate why. But then Mahler published his basically breakdown of this movie of The Last Jedi, and suddenly I had an outlet.
Good time, no alcohol required.
Others are, well, somewhat less enthusiastic.
Yes, you'll find that many people are less enthusiastic about certain events. For instance, I liked Endgame. I know that is not a popular. I know that's not a super popular opinion. Endgame is probably the most divisive of the Avengers movies, but I liked Endgame. I thought it was good, if not great, but good. You will find divisiveness in any fandom that has garnered any sort of mega, like, epicness, I guess, would be any fandom that is near or has approached the same cultural zeitgeist that is Star Trek, basically. If you got that, you've got a fandom that is inherently divisive.
You are a worthless freaking piece of plastic. You're the worst thing I've ever seen in freaking Star Wars. You're the worst character. I hate your face. I hate you, Daisy Ridley. You're a freaking piece of garbage. I hope your career dies in 2020.
I hated it.
Okay. So, yeah, congratulations. You can point out to some random schmo who turned on his webcam. Laptop webcam by the look of it, too. Not that I can speak. I don't show my face.
This movie took everything that you like about Star Wars, that you love about Star Wars, that you thought you knew about Star Wars, and it on it. And it on it again, and then it sets it on fire, and then it on it again.
And I'm not
I mean, he's not wrong. A bit hyperbolic, but he's not wrong.
hating on this because I don't like where they were taking it. I'm just hating on it because so much of it was just poorly thought out and poorly written.
Okay, why is that bad?
Honestly feel like I could have wrote a better movie. Like, what the was that?
Okay, you can't present... Alright. Davey Lee, friend. You can't present very clearly two people who are very angrily ranting. One person who was very clearly saying, I have thought through my argumentation as to why this movie is a poor movie. And then someone who's probably, in context, thought through their argumentation as to why this was a poorly written movie. And then cap it off with Dunderhead here, her smacking toys around. Like, that's not how this works. That's called poisoning the well. You don't poison the well if you want to be taken seriously as an argument. If you want your argumentation to be taken seriously.
Look, you dented my bat. Look at this.
I'm just gonna say it right now.
Alright, let's read these before we get... Alright. Hardly a Star Wars fan, but there's no way the newest Star Wars should be ahead of the originals. Do you like The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi more The Return of the Jedi? You may have a tuner. What? Okay. Where are the likes? Like, where are the ratings on these? How odd. I'm not saying he faked these comments, but how odd. I'm not saying he faked. Again, I'm definitely not saying he faked these comments. But there's no ratings. Which would, if you screenshot the YouTube comments, why not leave the ratings in? Fuck it. Unless, oh, I don't know, you have, these comments are lowly rated or don't have any ratings at all. Perfect Star Wars movie from beginning to end. This is Star Wars. I stopped watching disliked blank trash. I scrolled because I thought, oh god. With an almost perfect screenplay, episode 7. Episode 7, you must be blank, blind, and deaf, mate. I mean...
The Last Jedi has brought out the worst in the Star Wars fandom. Never have I seen the Star Wars community so angry, so vicious, and so nasty. Even turning on other fans who liked the movie. Yes, these are real comments posted on some of my Star Wars videos.
Alright. Press X to doubt? I mean, I don't not believe him, but I don't believe him either. I mean, that's basically the premise of all these Last Jedi defenses. Is they have to nitpick. They either have to rewrite the movie, they either have to do 3 things, basically. Any Last Jedi defense boils down to these 3 things. They have to, A, rewrite the movie, pretend, or B, pretend the movie is far better, pretend like scenes in the movie meant things like meant way more than they actually did, or 3, nitpick the movie to nitpick the critique of the movie to such an extent that that actually examining the whole argument would be pointless.
While many have expressed their hatred on the movie and the filmmakers, others have turned their vitriol towards Disney, the parent company of Lucasfilm responsible for the production of the new era of Star Wars movies.
Yes. I placed this entirely on Disney's shoulders. They have allowed a woman who, with minimal experience involved in this franchise, and who very clearly had her own agenda going into it, far too much creative control, and far too much power. And now, if rumors are to be believed, they're stuck with her because she's the first female Disney, she's the first female Disney CEO or something. Like female board member or something. She's the first female to have in Disney to be like leader of a department of something. And the moment if they fire her, if Katzenberg fires her, who I think Katzenberg is in charge now, if Katzenberg fires her, he has to face down the endless feminist and SJW backlash of, you fired a woman because she's a woman, women can't have power or anything like that, completely ignoring that Kathleen Kennedy, he got paid millions to kill a franchise and a company. By this point, Lucasfilm is no longer profitable.
Disney killed Star Wars.
Correct. That's absolutely true. I would argue that Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson killed Star Wars, but we could simplify that to Disney.
Quickly become a buzzword for those who hate the movie and its predecessor, The Force Awakens.
I've already said I didn't dislike The Force Awakens.
Blaming the studio for ruining the franchise with supposed feminist agendas, desolation of lifelong favourite characters, a shift towards kid-friendly entertainment, and of course the decanonization of thousands of expanded universe stories published across printed media, television, and video games, which
Yes, 100%. That should not have been a thing. Why? Why would you decanonize the EU? The EU is basically the EU basically only exists because we wanted to know what came before and what came after.
diehard Star Wars fans had immersed themselves in for almost 40 years. The thing
Yes. One would think that decanonizing, that basically throwing out 40 years of world development and stories, would be met with absolutely positive reactions. You know what? I am going to be hired to write the next Star Trek series. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to throw out everything that has made Star Trek good. All the novels, all the TV, even the previous TV shows. Those and movies are no longer canon. They no longer exist. We are starting fresh. Humanity is just starting out in the galaxy. Yeah, and that's what's going on. I'm pretty sure I just summarized Star Trek Discovery, but let me have this. Exactly. She was a producer. She from what I've heard, she barely had anything involved with the films. She just was a producer. She just got named a producer because she latched onto Spielberg's taint.
thing is, though, that Star Wars has always featured strong female characters and has always been aimed at children.
Okay, you're not wrong. But the humor in The Force Awakens is very... How do I put this? Lowbrow. And I don't mean like dick and fart jokes. I mean like, if you're not into slapstick comedy, congratulations, you missed a boat. There's no humor in... If you don't like slapstick comedy, well, sorry about ya. You just missed the boat on this one. Damn it, I wish I had that. I wish I'd gotten the double-bladed maul lightsaber. Like, oof, so much. Child envy. Child envy.
If I were to ask any die-hard Star Wars fan how old they were when they first fell in love with the franchise, I could guarantee you that almost every single one would say that they were under 10 years old.
Correct. But that doesn't mean that Star Wars offers me nothing as an adult. Like, you see the point that media directed at children does not necessarily have nothing to do as an adult. And besides that, Star Wars itself is timeless. Star Wars, at its core, was, before Disney got a hold of it, timeless. It didn't treat children like children, nor did it pander to adult, nor did it didn't treat its subject matter like it was for children. People get hurt in Star Wars. People die in Star Wars. Luke, very graphically, in Empire Strikes Back, loses a hand. Like, straight up, it's right there on the screen, and you can see it fall down. In the original, in Phantom Menace, you see someone explode. Granted, you see people die in Star Wars a lot. No media truly aimed at children would allow that for like any sort of reference. Like, name a children's media that shows someone dying on screen, like, very clearly. Like, we see Qui-Gon Jinn get stabbed. We see Padme get clawed by the creature in the second movie. We see Anakin have his arm taken off in that same movie. We see Mace Windu pushed out of a building. Like, there is very clearly things in Star Wars intended for a mature audience. But yes, it is a space. But yes, it has appeal to children. Like, it can do both. And the fact that you are saying, "Oh, it's a movie about space wizards meant for children," tells me that you don't understand Star Wars at all. You fail to understand it because you haven't engaged with your adult brain. You have only engaged with your child brain.
In fact, George Lucas has even gone on the record saying that Star Wars is for 12-year-olds.
You know, it's hard for people to realize, and I'm not supposed to say this, and I wasn't supposed to say it then, but, you know, it's a film for 12-year-olds.
The rendering of the Star Wars...
Okay, so what? That doesn't make anything up. Okay, so what? I would argue, Davey Lee, I would argue, Davey, that media directed at children should be held to a higher standard than media directed for adults. Not that media directed for adults shouldn't be held to a high standard. It absolutely 100% should, but media directed to children should be held to a high standard because it is the media that will inform our children's lives. This is why things like Avatar: The Last Airbender, a show with genuinely amazing writing, is still remembered and loved to this very day. But a show like, I don't know, Rocket Power, and I know someone in the audience just had a fucking, head scratch, oh my gosh, what is oh my gosh, I watched that show, is absolutely forgotten by the wayside. Things like Ren and Stampy are real monsters. They leave impressions on people. And they leave impressions for the better or for the worse. There's a reason why, hell, My Little Pony, the most recent series of My Little Pony, got as big as it did. Not just because 4chan grabbed hold of it and said, how can we corrupt this to our own evil means, but because people saw what 4chan did and said, and took a look at the show and said, this is a very good show that remembers on occasion it's for children. Like, this is a just genuinely good show that on occasion it treats its audience like children. Like, George Lucas, at no point, George Lucas may have intended Star Wars for 12-year-olds, and it absolutely is. It is 100% Space Wizards. It is 100% a space opera for, or meant for a young audience. That does not mean he talks down to them. That does not mean he treats them as children. He treats them as he wants to tell a story, so he tells a story. If I were to present this argument about the Harry Potter books, by the way, most people would freak the hell out and say, "You're wrong. That's wrong." But it's okay when we use it for Star Wars.
EU as non-canon is understandably maddening for those who devoted so many years to the stories. But from a storytelling point of view, it was the best move to keep storytelling original and concise.
But it's not. That's the problem. If Disney had come in and said, hey, we're getting rid of everything. Everything's gone. Bye. And then come in with absolutely new and original ideas and original stories involving Luke, Leia, Han, and introduce the new characters and the state of the galaxy as it is, and maybe brought us new villains that the Empire that rose out of the remains of the Empire. Oh yeah, absolutely, that would have been awesome. But that's the problem. That's the problem. Disney didn't. J.J. Abrams came in and said, I'm going to make The Force Awakens. I'm going to make A New Hope, but with a woman and a black guy. The villains are just the Empire repainted. The ending is almost exactly the same, except that Luke's lightsaber, except that Han Solo dies and there's a weird lightsaber battle in the next one, 5 minutes later. But The Force Awakens hits so many beats that A New Hope hits that, really examining it, The Force Awakens hits it's A New Hope with a fresh coat of paint, essentially, and longer.
Providing Lucasfilm and their storytellers a fresh slate to work with. However, when presented with the facts, some Star Wars fans will use anything they can to prove that Disney has tarnished the franchise, even trying to convince you that Mark Hamill, the actor behind Luke Skywalker, hated the movie himself, using a compilation of clips like this to justify their own thoughts.
So, are we to assume that Mark Hamill doesn't... Are we to assume, based on your argument, I know it's not complete yet, but I'm going to head you off here. Am I to assume that Mark Hamill was scripted during these interviews? That he didn't actually dislike the movie? Or something like that? Something to that effect? I mean, Mark Hamill is a Star Wars fan. At his core, he is a Star Wars fan, and he has loved this franchise from the moment he started working on it. And he, I guarantee you, desires to keep the peace in the Star Wars fandom. So if he thinks that saying stuff on Twitter or in interviews like, I was okay with the movie or things like that, that I expect that out of him because he is a peacekeeper. He doesn't want the fandom to fight, but I don't think... But regardless, I don't need to hold up Mark Hamill as an example of Disney ruining Star Wars. I can point to the writing and the poor sales numbers of the following movies as evidence that Disney has ruined Star Wars.
I've had trouble accepting what he saw for Luke. I said to Ryan, I said, Jedis don't give up. But if he made a mistake, he would try and right that wrong. So right there, we had a fundamental difference. That's the crux of my problem. Luke would never say that.
But what they're not showing you in these viral supercuts is context.
Remember, GoDaddy exists, people.
Text.
But
Okay, what context?
again, I mean, I have to say, having seen the movie, I was wrong. I came to really believe that Ryan was the exact man that they needed for this job.
When Hamill went on the record to rectify his statements, all of a sudden, he became the target of fan scorn, with fans shouting, "Damage control!"
Yeah. I point to a clip that Mahler used in his video, breaking this down, of Mark Hamill basically saying it's fine because Disney made money off of it. And he can't say a bad thing. Like, actors who say bad things about the movie they are in don't get work anymore. That is 100% true, and you can look it up. I'm sure it's in an interview somewhere that even if you do not say anything negative about the movie you're in, because you will not work in Hollywood anymore. Like, and there's a reason for that. Like, yes, this is real. Well, only the difference is, by and large, all of these things would be wallets. This is Hollywood holds you, whoever your production company is, whoever hired you, who says, do not say a negative thing about this movie, or you will not work in this town again. And who knows? Maybe it's even in a contract that you can't say negative things about the movie, about the film, or you can't release negative details about to the press about the filming process. As things like that. Who knows? Because you get, basically, if you do that, you get blackballed and you don't work in Hollywood anymore, or because nobody can trust you to keep quiet about the dirty laundry that goes on in the film industry.
And insinuating he'd been threatened by Disney over his comments. When Hamill rectified his rectifying statements, it was a lost cause. He'd already lost. The fans who'd blasted Disney a week earlier for disrespecting him and his character were now disrespecting him themselves, suggesting that he was lying to his fans. Even when presented with the full story, some Star Wars fans, blinded by their own hatred and a desire to complain about anything, have still found a scapegoat in Disney to blame all of their disappointments on. So make way for the rise of Disney killed Star Wars.
That's not an argument. You have presented no argument as to anything. Like, your argument is basically, oh, Mark Hamill said this, but then he retracted it and said this, but then he retracted it and said this. Meanwhile, ignoring the fact that reality in Hollywood works like that. Like, you don't say negative things about the movie, even if it's shit. Even if you know it's shit. Like, for example, in his final seasons of Doctor Who, you can tell Peter Capaldi is working with absolute garbage. And I've seen and in his first seasons, and his first couple of seasons before Moffat left, Capaldi, I would say, is one of the best modern Doctors. He's one of the best actors for the modern Doctor ever. He's up there because his acting chops are on point. But the man at the end of his run just has nothing to work with. But I don't hear news of Peter Capaldi trashing the new Doctor, trashing the writing on the show. You know why? Because Peter Capaldi wants to work again. Every major actor in Hollywood has been in or been a part of an awful movie, whether it was direction, whether it was production, whether it was just someone on set they didn't get along with. But they zip their mouths because they want to fucking work again. And this is absolutely true. I guarantee it. Hell, Mark Hamill might as well have said it himself. Oh yeah, we see Jango Fett decapitated. The 2005 document. Is there what? What do you mean worse than you? I like the 2005 doc. Eccleston. Eccleston. Yeah, I like him too. He was my favorite Doctor before he was one of my favorites. I think for me the modern Doctors probably go number 1 is Tennant, 2 is Capaldi, 3 is Smith, and the last is Eccleston. But number 32 is Jodie Whittaker because she's bad. She's bad. God, I've seen clips. She's bad. I hate what they've done with her. And no offense to Jodie Whittaker, she's fine. She could probably act, but she just doesn't have much to work with. Her TARDIS is ugly too. Like, ugh.
But you know something? It never had to be like this.
The shitty writing in the second movie definitely says yes, it had to be like this.
Disney never had to take control of Star Wars, and George Lucas never had to be distanced from the sequel trilogy. So how did it get like this? Did Disney kill Star Wars, or did the fans?
Okay. Correct. You have just answered your own question. We're going to in an alternate universe where George Lucas decided, hey, I'm going to make a sequel trilogy to the original. In what world does George Lucas have no involvement whatsoever in that? Why? Why would George Lucas, in a world where he still controlled his own company, point to his love child, what essentially was his love child, and say, and hand it to a new person and say, Here, I don't want to have any involvement with this at all. Why? Why would Lucas just decide that? I'm genuinely surprised Disney hadn't told Lucas to come in at all to consult with what they were doing to his creation. And they didn't, and you can tell. We're 5 minutes in, and I feel like the video's just now starting. Anybody else? Anybody else get that feeling?
Star Wars opened in 1977, filmgoers had never seen anything like the galaxy far, far away ever before. It was new, it was innovative, and it was awe-inspiring. It wasn't long before George Lucas's small, independent science fiction movie that no studio wanted to touch became a worldwide phenomenon. By the end of the 1980s, George Lucas was a god amongst nerds the world over. Star Wars had spawned 2 sequels to form a trilogy, now known as the original trilogy, as well as 3 television specials, 2 cartoon serials, and a multitude of books and comics, which would
generally people don't look at the Last Jedi. No, not the Last Jedi. The Return of the Jedi very favorably in the original among the original trilogy. Mostly because it's not that great writing wise. I don't know. It's been a dog's age since I've seen in the original trilogy, but yeah. Generally, amongst the older generations of Star Wars fans, the Return of the Jedi is considered the weakest of those films. Like, they weren't all sci-fi, science fantasy masterpieces. What? Okay, hold on, hold on, hold on. We're okay. I might have to go find this one because it's got. What is this? What is this? What is this? The glove of Darth Vader. We have Luke, Leia, and Han, and R2D2 and C3PO. They're very clearly screenshots, like shots from the movie. We have this person, and then we have humpback whales in the background. All right, if I can find this, I'll read it and review it. I will read it. I don't know that I'll review it, but I'll read it on stream. Good lord, this will either be the greatest thing ever, or it'll be so hilarious.
go on to form the foundations of what would eventually be known as the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Star Wars media flourished throughout the 1990s, mainly spurred on by the hype surrounding George Lucas's announcement to finally produce his long-rumoured prequel trilogy of movies. When 1999 rolled around, the hype for Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace was real. Fans flocked in droves to see the first installment of the saga for 16 years. Some even camped out in front of cinemas for over a month to ensure that they were the very first to see the movie. And when curtains closed on opening night, fans around the world, they loved it!
Fantastic. Go see it as quick as you can.
I couldn't get enough of it. I want to see it again already.
Thumbs up or thumbs down?
God, I'd put my feet up if I could.
It was intense. It was incredible. I loved it. It was awesome.
We got tickets for the 9 a.m. show. We're going to stick around and see it again.
I thought it was better than Return of the Jedi, personally, so.
It'll be a great movie 20 years from now. It'll be part of 6 great movies. Unless the next 2 really suck, but I don't think they will.
But then, something happened. When the hype of the movie fizzled away, audiences somehow decided they no longer liked the movie.
What do you mean? All of the prequel movies, by and large, on release, were received very, very well. I think Attack of the Clones has a lower turnout, has a lower success rate than the other 2, but by and large, it took time for the prequels stink lines to show. Like, most people look on the prequels and say, would look on the prequels originally and say, those are great movies. especially on release. Like, yeah, everyone going to the movies is excited and hyped, and when they walk out, they're going to be like, yeah, it was great. It was awesome. It's why initial reactions to things don't tend to last very long. Because given time to process and digest something makes you giving time to sort of think about something, it sort of exposes its flaws. Sure, absolutely, 100%. I walked out of The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. I walked out of The Force Awakens definitely excited. I was hyped. I thought it was a great Star Wars movie. I walked out of The Last Jedi semi-hyped. It's like, it was alright. I was kind of bored, but other than that, it's fine. Like, I was like, yes, those were my initial reactions, and now having had time to look upon the movies is as without that lens of hype, I can safely say, yeah, I'm not I'm not a fan of them. Examining things on initial release is generally bad. It's why I don't read game reviews, because by and large game reviews are done the first week they come out and miss a whole bunch of the game. Or miss features in the game, or they're done fairly very, very quickly, without time for the critic to genuinely digest and examine the story that the game is telling, or the gameplay, or the mechanics behind it. For example, Dragon Age Inquisition. Dragon Age Inquisition is a great game, but it is a great game. Well, I say great. It's a mediocre Dragon Age game. It's a great RPG, but a mediocre Dragon Age game. But that game is spread out over about 120 hours of content, and it never stops. It feels like an MMO, and I just like Dragon Age Inquisition feels like an MMO, and I don't think it should feel that way. I don't think that's how Dragon Age should feel. But moving on.
In fact, they hated it.
Thumbs way down. You didn't like it? No.
I couldn't believe some of the things they wrote about the prequels. You know? I mean, but really, beyond, I didn't like it.
They hated the new characters like Jar Jar Binks. They hated Jake Lloyd's portrayal as a young Anakin Skywalker to the point where he was driven into a super early retirement from acting. They hated the special effects, and most of all, they hated George.
I think I deserve a public apology from George Lucas.
George Lucas raped our childhood. George Lucas raped our childhood. George Lucas raped our childhood.
Fans tiraded against both the new movie and George himself, and with each coming prequel, the hate got worse and worse. To add insult to...
Yeah, congratulations, you can point out a trend. You've yet to actually address any sort of argumentation involving The Last Jedi, though. Disney killed Star Wars because essentially Rian Johnson wrote a movie that killed Star Wars. He broke the mechanics of the universe. He broke Luke Skywalker, a beloved character. Like, that's the thing about the prequels. Yes, the prequels are shitty movies. Well, I love them. I love them. I love the prequels, and I think they're decent movies. But the prequels may have been ill-received by certain members of the public, but that's the thing about the prequels. They were working with nothing, and at no point did did they go through and assassinate the characters of the original trilogy. Like, they didn't bring Han Solo in as a child to I don't know, like, basically set up for why he's in the movie. They didn't bring Leia's, like, they didn't bring Bail Organa and Leia in till the very end so they could have them in the movie. They didn't have that. Like, they didn't go through and assassinate all these characters because they thought it would be good writing, because it would subvert expectations. George Lucas created the prequels to tell the story of the rise to the highest of heights that Anakin would to the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker. Now, I will be the first to admit, it is not a very well told story, but that is the point of the prequel trilogy. It is to tell the story of how Darth Vader, at the peak of his power as a Jedi, could fall to the dark side. And personally, I think Lucas picked a very, very good motive for him to do so. Like, I don't think anyone could genuinely point to their family, to someone they cared about, with any sort of with a straight face and say, I would let them die if I knew they were going to die and could prevent it. Like, straight up.
To injury, George's revisionist versions of the original trilogy, the Star Wars Special Editions, and later the Star Wars Special DVD Editions were the target of backlash, with fans furious that Lucas had tarnished their beloved films with updated special effects, new songs, new scenes, and, well, quite bizarre changes. The immense hatred even led to the creation of a documentary called The People vs. George Lucas, which basically gave the Star Wars fandom a soapbox on which they could rally against their once beloved god.
But I
Yeah, I agree. I agree worse than you. But, okay, so people didn't like something. Alright, let's look at the Star Trek movies. A fandom equally as big as Star Wars. The modern films have not been well received by the fandom. Nor were some of the original films. Please do not pretend like this is a new phenomena. Like the fans hating on something is new and exciting. But the reason for that hatred is because, oh, I don't like the movie, or in the case of the prequels, is the reason they don't like these movies is because, hey, I don't like the movie. But some of them might have genuinely good arguments. You can't just point and say, oh, the fan backlash is exactly the same as it was for the prequels. Therefore, I can disregard the arguments people are making. There are arguments to be made saying, hey, the prequels aren't very good as movies. They don't necessarily make a lot of sense. There are narrative oddities. And Anakin as a child actor is not good. I'm sorry. He's not good. Jar Jar Binks isn't very funny either. I mean, he was funny when I was like 6, but nah. As I grow up, I realize, oh, ouch.
I could tell from the questions they were asking me, it was an open invitation to trash George. And I have issues with George, but I love that man. I would never, and I don't talk outside the family. It's just brutal. I imagine.
Which would tell me, Mark Hamill just said, I don't talk outside the family, which would tell me that his issues with Rian Johnson on Star Wars were probably far worse than he let on. Since he's very clearly talking outside the family in his later in his interviews involving the Last Jedi and all that. One thinks one's pistachios come to percolating upon that sort of revelation.
George in a crystal castle drinking margaritas, lying on a bed made of people.
A lot of people view George Lucas as the Antichrist.
Has he fulfilled his destiny or has he destroyed his legacy?
When the prequels were done and dusted, the hatred for George and his movies continued. Fans constantly took to the internet to rip apart Lucas and his movies, and continually harassed him in the streets. The way he was treated simply for trying to entertain his fans was truly disgusting. Over the few years that followed the release of Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, the final Star Wars prequel, Lucas continued to deliver interviews, and with each following one looked less enthused and more broken. Lucas seemed over it. He no longer wanted anything to do with Star Wars and continuously denied the possibility of any more sequels.
What if someone else beside you came to you and said, I want to make Episode 7? Could you see that happening?
No.
No, absolutely, positively, you're really closing the door without any wiggle room whatsoever.
Right. There is no Episode 7.
When the newest installments for Star Wars is going to be 7, 8, and 9. Never? Harrison, never. Mark.
I'm retired. Yeah, George Lucas can say that. It's his child. And despite negative reaction, and despite negative attention, who generally speaking, when it comes to movies like this, there's no such thing as bad press. There is no such thing as bad press. Regardless, please do not pretend like these two situations are equivalent. George Lucas could have said, hell, I'm walking away from Star Wars forever, or fuck it, and nobody would have believed him, because they would still hold out hope for those sequels.
You would even tell the New York Times in 2012, why would I make any more? When everybody yells at you all the time and says what a terrible person you are.
Okay. This isn't explaining how Star Wars fans killed Star Wars. Because, and I'll point this out, the massive success of anything with Star Wars attached to it. The EU still going strong to the modern day. Was still going strong to the modern day. Hey, video games came out throughout the 2000s, even after the prequels were done, that were massive critical success, that were successful beyond, I think, anyone's imagination. Hell, two animated Star Wars series were created and universally loved by Star Wars fans. Which tells me that, by and large, the negative attention is probably A, a minority, or B, people that they're YouTube commenters. And if George Lucas took those as everyone's that's what everyone's like, that's on him personally. But the massive success of anything, hell, let's look at the Lego series of Star Wars properties, tells me that this is not a fandom that attempted to kill itself. This is a fandom that was disappointed with the product that it came out, voiced that disappointment, but absolutely 100% still bought the product. I say that because, yes, George Lucas got hate. Mark Hamill got hate. Everyone involved got hated on. Congratulations. Welcome to the modern age where random schmo can turn on a webcam and say terrible things about you. Sorry about you. If you got thin skin, stay out of the kitchen. Just a warning. And putting your opinions or your creative works opens you up to people not liking them. However, I do not think that can be argued based upon what you are showing me that that Star Wars fans killed Star Wars, because up until recently, as in within the last 5 years, Star Wars was easily one of the most profitable brands in the world. Like, I'm not kidding. When Star Wars The Clone Wars went off the air on Cartoon Network and went onto Netflix exclusively, I think it was Netflix. Netflix basically the creators released the last 2 seasons because they knew of the Clone Wars, because they knew 100% that people would want them. And even today, under Disney, Clone Wars is still one of the best, is still loved. I think. I don't know. I've heard the new seasons are meh. Hell, The Mandalorian, one of the only Disney Star Wars properties that has garnered any sort of fan and love, is absolutely 100% owned by Disney. I don't say Disney killed Star Wars. I say Kathleen Kennedy killed Star Wars. Because because nobody pulled her leash. Oh God, I just pictured Kathleen Kennedy on a leash. Ugh.
You go to make a movie and all you do is get criticized, and people try to make decisions about what you're going to do before you do it. It's not much fun, and you can't experiment. You can't do anything. You have to do it a certain way.
This was a far cry from the man who, since the 1970s, had planned on a 3-trilogy, 9-movie story arc.
At one time said, would you consider playing an Obi-Wan type character handing Excalibur down to the next generation? I said, when would that be? And at the time he said around 2011.
I hope you enjoyed this special showing of the Star Wars trilogy. As you may know, the films we've just seen are only the middle 3 chapters in George Lucas's master plan for a 9-part saga.
Lucasfilm continuity editor Alan Couch would refer to Lucas's 9 films in the 1996 book The Secrets of Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire. And even in a 1980 interview with Preview magazine, Lucas would refer to Star Wars as a 9-part saga that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It progresses over a period of about 50 or 60 years, with about 20 years between trilogies, each trilogy taking about 6 or 7 years. Lucas would also write something to a similar effect in an introduction to a 1994 reprint of the very first Star Wars Expanded Universe novel, 1978's Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
I have heard the prequel books are really, really good. Like, the novelizations of the movies are decent, are better than the movies.
But by the early 2010s, Lucas had seemingly lost all desire to complete his vision. Furthermore, Lucas would continually express his desire to instead return to experimental films, which he wouldn't even release to the general public.
They're going to be small movies.
You said to somebody, I'm going to go off and make these art films that nobody's going to want to watch.
Yeah, I've earned enough, I've worked enough to be able to fail the rest of my life, and that's what I'm going to do.
This was his final middle finger to the fans who disrespected him and his artistic vision for so long.
Okay, congratulations. Lucasfilm got my money. Lucas, and by extension, Disney, got my money. I don't give a shit if he flips me off. He made a product I thought worth spending my money on.
I will be directing movies, but not movies generally that will be shown anywhere.
In 2012, after over a decade of harassment, news broke that the Walt Disney Company had acquired Star Wars for $4.06 billion, far less than the franchise was actually worth. Considering having only released 3 movies since 2015, Disney have already made their money back from the buyout. It was almost as if Lucas just wanted to make a quick sale to lighten the burden of carrying the world's most popular franchise on his shoulders for almost 40 years, and to make some easy cash to fund his experimental films.
Huh. Interesting. But that you'd have to actually prove that Star Wars fans caused this. I agree, we didn't need 9.
These are my kids. To
And
sell
you
them
sold
off.
them.
I sold them to the white slavers that take these things and
Okay, but
it did seem at first, however, that Lucas would be somewhat involved in Disney's announced sequel trilogy, handing over all of his treatments to the Mouse House to finally complete his vision.
Kathy and I have
Yeah. And then they threw them out.
been working on future Star Wars films. We started working with writers and started working on all the processes of doing the films. I have story treatments of 7, 8, and 9 and a bunch of other movies, and I sort of moved that treasure trove of stories and various things to Kathy, and I have complete confidence that she's going to take them and make great movies.
These treatments would eventually be thrown out by Disney, much to the disappointment of Lucas.
Yeah, huh. One wonders. It's almost like Lucas has looked back. It's almost like Lucas is looking back on this and saying, wow, I could have done better. Even if it meant I endure another 2 decades of awful people, of people harassing and criticizing my movies, which they have every right to do, harassing me and criticizing my movies, which they have, well, not the harassment part, but criticizing his movies, they have every right to do. It wasn't worth this. Watching my baby burn.
They looked at the stories and they said, we want to make something for the fans. They decided they didn't want to use those stories. They decided they were going to go do their own thing, and so I decided, fine. They weren't that keen to have me involved anyway, but at the same time I said, I'm not going to, if I get in there, I'm just going to cause trouble, because they're not going to do what I want them to do, so, and I don't have the control to do that anymore, and all I would do is muck everything up.
And of course, funnily enough, all of a sudden, with a new enemy, fans rallied against Disney, angry with their mistreatment of George, his ideas and his saga.
Yeah. I would be too, even if I were to vocally criticize George Lucas, even if I were to have been one of the people harassing him on the street about his shitty shitty prequel trilogy, that does not mean I cannot look at Disney's treatment of him and say, you have treated someone who has created memories for myself, positive and negative, poorly, and that is wrong. Fuck you. People are hypocrites. Congratulations, Davy Lee. You can point out some basic part of human nature.
Go screw yourselves, Disney. I hate you. I hate you.
Okay, can we stop using Dunderhead here? Can you present an actual argument someone has as to why they don't like Star Wars anymore, as to why Disney killed Star Wars, as to why, oh, I don't know, Ryan Johnson or Kathleen Kennedy or anyone killed Star Wars? Are you actually going to present the arguments people made, or are you just saying, oh, people didn't like Star Wars, people have never liked Star Wars, people always he's hated Star Wars, they harassed the creators and everything, and Mark Hamill will had greater context next to his interviews where he said negative things about Star Wars. Are you going to address those arguments, or are you going to sit there smug in your relief and say, "Oh, people were mildly hypocritical about this about the prequel trilogy, therefore, they're being hypocritical about the sequel trilogy."
Now, with the release of The Last Jedi, fans are calling for the return of Lucas, who
Yes.
they somehow believe will be able to fix Disney's supposed mess and restore the expanded universe to its former glory. But again, it never had to be like this.
Correct. In some alternate universe, these 3 movies probably didn't get made. And the world is the better for it. Is all the better for it. George Lucas is very, very much like John Cena. John Cena is a character that WWE has presented as their man. He is the WWE champion. He is the WWE. And I point this out because John Cena gets a lot of hate. I am personally someone who both loves and hates John Cena. But George Lucas is very much like that in real life. He is someone who people love for what he has done, for what he has created, for the influence he has had on their lives, but also hates because, yes, George Lucas killed my childhood. You can be both. And different people can sit back and say, yeah, George Lucas made great movies, but he also made shitty movies. Why can there not be both? Why are you, Davey Lee, by the way, acting as if George Lucas being harassed, or hell, let's be real, any director being harassed about the films they create is shocking, new, or matters in any way to the movie itself, to fandoms in general? I present again the example of the My Little Pony fandom. The My Little Pony fandom, the writers and the directors and the showrunners got criticized all the time. And they probably got harassed on Twitter. And they probably got people sending hate mail, literal hate mail to their houses, or harassing them on the street. But that doesn't change the fact that some of the episodes that they wrote were great. Some of the episodes they wrote were poor. Treating a fandom as if it is not a inherently hypocritical organism because it is made up of people is to reduce fandom to a single dimension. And it is, honestly, personally, I find it to be disrespectful. I find it to be disrespectful to the creators and the fans. The guy who wrote the manga for Rosario Vampire had to stop the manga because the anime just like the sequel trilogy. I've heard of Rosaria Vampire. I've never seen it. But I get that. Like one of the like Full Metal Alchemist, the two Full Metal Alchemists. Full Metal Alchemist, the original one, got shat on endlessly by Full Metal Alchemist fans because it didn't follow the manga. And then Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, it is loved. But honestly, having watched both, I can firmly say that both have their strong points. I haven't read the manga, honestly, but like both have their strong points. I think Brotherhood is the stronger show, writing wise, but both shows have their strong points. This is not, and saying that a fandom is dead because you didn't like something, or a shitty product gets a shitty episode, or a shitty manga chapter, or a shitty anime comes from it, does not mean anything. A fandom is only truly dead when the fans stop caring about the product. Doctor Who is a great example of this. Doctor Who managed to have a 50-year long fandom. 50 years. Hold on. No, not 50 years. 50. It's had 50 anniversaries, so I guess it is 50 years. There's 50 years of history for the Doctor Who anime. For Doctor Who. And its fandom, even to this day, is still going strong. Now, I'm sure 100%, and I know for a fact, because I've experienced this, I didn't like Smith when he took over for Tennant. And there are people I'm 100% sure didn't like doctors that took over for their favorites. Like, there's a reason why fandoms tend to look fondly upon characters and movies after the hype dies down, after they've had time to digest their feelings on it, because they tend to look fondly on them because, oh, there were good episodes, or there were good scenes in that movie, or there were moments that tugged on my heartstrings. Davy Lee, you disrespect fans and fandom and the creators that put effort into their creations because they want to see people excited or they want to see people angry. Because there are creators that do that. Because they want to see fans react. Because when fans react, generally speaking, that's when you know you've created something of quality. Or something terrible. Because you can always tell. But you treat every single argument against the Star Wars sequel trilogy as if it is merely spawned from the rage of fandom, instead of stepping back, saying, I am angry, yes, but why?
Just imagine A world where the original expanded universe still exists. Where George Lucas releases his very own Star Wars trilogy, using his own specs and his own ideas. The perfect world for Star Wars fans. Well, we clearly very nearly had that. And if it weren't for a decade of fan backlash and harassment, we would have. Don't you just wish we could kind of rewind the clock? Back to this moment in time. Before the hatred. Before the dark times. And just leave it right here.
It was amazing. It was everything I thought it was going to be and more.
No. You know why? Because that moment is fleeting. Because if we pause on that moment, we don't grow. Because if we pause on that moment, on that singular moment of, oh yeah, it was great, it was awesome, we don't look at what went wrong, what flaws in the movie were there, or what do we appreciate, what good parts of the movie do we appreciate more because of its flaws. And Davey, I know this is truly shallow. This is a truly shallow examination of fandom and what killed Star Wars in the modern era. Because you clearly want this to be everybody's reaction, because it was probably yours. And you don't understand why nobody else is reacting the same way you are. And that's the thing. For some of us, that moment for some, that moment lasted. And it is good for you. But I took that moment and said, yes, that was a moment, and I enjoyed that moment. But now it is time to look at this movie and say, but now, upon further thought, because this is what you are, Davey. You put this is all you thought. It's awesome, moving on. Instead of sitting back and saying, yeah, I thought it was awesome, but why? And this is your shallow thoughts. These are shallow thoughts for you. These are shallow thoughts. Instead of examining what made the movie great, or hell, what made the movie bad, you sat down and said, well, I thought it was great, so that means it's great.
The only thing fan backlash achieved is distancing the core fan base from George Lucas.
I would argue that George Lucas is thin-skinned, but, that's just my personal opinion.
And his creation. He forced his hand into selling his baby for less than it was worth, simply because he no longer had a passion or desire to please his audience.
Okay, you have no evidence of this, and in fact, I would argue that there's plenty of evidence to suggest that George Lucas George Lucas may be thin-skinned, but you have no evidence that this was that fan backlash was the catalyst for him selling Star Wars.
It's the same thing that will happen if the hatred for Disney's new Star Wars movies continues. We'll come to a time where we never have a new Star Wars ever again. And while you may applaud and pretend that that's what you...
Yes, that is exactly what I want. These movies are bad. All three of them are awful. Oh, but I will give JJ credit. The Rise of Skywalker could have been so much worse. It could have been. It's pretty bad, but it could have been so much worse. But he tried, and I will applaud the effort. He tried.
You want, it isn't. Who wants to live in a world without the possibility of a new Star Wars movie ever again? Certainly not me. I, for one, I love Star Wars.
So do I. But I definitely don't want another Star Wars movie like these. Because here's the thing, Davey. Your Star Wars movie stops at that moment from earlier. My Star Wars movie starts at that moment from earlier.
I love all of it. I don't think it's dead at all. In fact, while I ultimately would have loved to have seen Lucas complete his 9-movie vision, I think Disney has breathed into it a new life, forging a bright future for the franchise. But if you really do believe that Star Wars is dead, don't blame Disney. Blame yourselves.
You have presented no evidence that would convince me that I'm the cause of this. In fact, I'm fairly certain, or hopefully, I've presented argumentation as to why your examination of this whole thing is very, very shallow and surface level. Well, in fact, you've yet to present any sort of argumentation as to against or sorry, hold on. You've yet to present me any arguments saying this is why Disney killed Star Wars. You've yet to present those arguments. You've yet to present the arguments of the other side. And now, so I have to assume either A, you're strawmanning them, B, you couldn't respond to them, or C, you don't know them. They don't exist in your mind. They're only buzzwords. So I wonder which one it is.
Disney didn't kill Star Wars. You did. If you're a first time viewer to my channel and you've liked this video and you'd like to see some more, then please hit that big old subscribe button up on your screen.
Thanks, Davey. That's definitely how to end a video. Oh. Oh, good lord. Okay. Hey, I just told you killed your favorite fandom. I just told you killed your favorite fandom. Subscribe, everybody. Good lord. Oh, fuck. Alright. Oh god, that's funny. That's a funny way to end it. Just hey, are you a Star Wars fan? It's because of your hatred of The Last Jedi. It's because of your hatred and fan backlash that this happened. That it's dead now. Well, it's your fault. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. What a way to end it. What a way to end this video. Well, and so exemplary of this style of YouTuber. Just, I don't care what I say. I did it to sound intelligent. Subscribe. Instead of leaving on that sort of philosophical hook like, oh, you killed Star Wars. You killed Star Wars, and leaving it at that, you just had to put that stinger in there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel that just told you killed your favorite franchise. It's your fault. Oh, good lord. Alright. Well, it is unfortunately that time where I have to say goodbye to everyone. So, thank you all so much for watching. I do appreciate that there are people that still tune in, and my YouTube channel is alive and well, apparently, despite my absence. That being said, do remember to like, comment, and I do read all of your comments. I have a notification set up on my phone, so it alerts me when people comment. So that it alerts me when people comment. I do try to reply I do try to reply. So, yeah, I do read comments, and I do appreciate comments. And remember, YouTube is most likely suppressing this channel, so if y'all would be, I would really appreciate it if y'all shared the video around. And if you are watching and you are not a member of our Discord, the Discord link should be in the description. And if it's not, give me a moment. Should be in the description down below. Oh, if you join that Discord, and if you have any interest in the Don't Rest Your Head game, just send me your character ideas, all the tools necessary for you to do so all the tools necessary for you to create your own character or how to do it are in the the comment in the text of the channel, or the text of the, I guess, tab. Whatever. They're inside the Discord. So just drop your character ideas. I can't really start the story until I have start writing what I want to do until I have all the characters set. So, with that being said, thank you all so much for joining me on this episode of the Filthy Casuals. We will be back next week, hopefully at the same time, and hopefully with a new article or video to respond to, and hopefully Caesar will join me for that one.